Howdy, howdy, folks. Darth Alpha here, and we are playing some more Kerbal Space Program Interstellar Extended. So, in this episode, we are going to go over how to collect, farm, and bring your antimatter home from orbit. Um, so, I have a bit of one prepared earlier. This is a bit of a reshoot, so I've got some ones that I was going to do later. Did I not save it? Well, that's embarrassing. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start over. So, antimatter. It's a important resource in KSP Interstellar. There we go. In order to get it, we need to enter. So we can either produce it in factories called cyclotrons. So these guys right here. There are other ways to make it as well. I believe the ring. Yeah, the particle accelerator ring can make it. So it can either do protium to protium deuterium fusion, or it can do this one, which produces antimatter from protium. We are going to instead do a collector setup. So antimatter. Okay. So this guy right here, deployable antimatter collector. When you deploy these guys in orbit around various planets, they will collect the antimatter that is in the location. Around Kerbal, you need to be at 90,000 meters. And that's the most efficient. Any higher and it'll collect less. Any lower also. Oh, cats are being loud. There are other ones you can do. This guy right here, I'm not familiar with it, but let's see. Oh, okay. So this has a collection multiplier of 7. This one has 6. If you scale it up, it goes up. Let's see. And then the fixed antimatter collector. This guy, yeah, he collects quite a bit. Amusingly, this one, and where'd it go? This one, collect the same amount. This one looks much better, though, I should point out. Okay, so when you collect antimatter, you end up with, not this one. We want the cyclotron, the positron cyclotron. So when you collect antimatter, you end up with positrons, which are produced at these factories, and then the other ones are antimatter. Antimatter is considered to be your antiprotons. Positrons are obviously your anti-electrons. And when you're storing them by themselves, as you can see right here, 1,000 antimatter is 1 gram. Because of the magnetic methods used to contain these are very, very sparse, not dense, very lightly stored. And this one's even less because positrons are, well, electrons have very little mass to begin with. So you can see here about 1 gram as well. A smidgen less. Yes, about 1 gram. So what we're going to do is build, we're going to combine them in the late game container here, the dimagnetic antimatter container. This will combine your positrons and antimatter into antihydrogen. Antihydrogen is much more dense, but much more difficult to store. So using some fancy, I'm sure that there's a basis in reality for this sort of storage, but I am unaware of it. Let's see. Let's go ahead and animate the extension here. As you can see, when this thing fills up with antimatter, you can see the antimatter in it, which is pretty neat. It is also very, very expensive. As you can see here, this thing with just over 1,000 antihydrogen is worth a little over 10 billion. Which means that you pretty much can't buy antihydrogen for your spacecraft. You have to make it. And I'm going to show you how to make it. Conversely, because it's so expensive, if you can manage to get it down to the surface of Kerbal, you're rich. You can see here, I have about $3 billion. In a previous attempt at this, that was just badly handled, badly recorded. I got a full one of these down to the surface of Kerbal and got a good bit of money, but because we did not land at the KSC, we didn't get the full amount. So I'm going to try if I can switch editors here, go new, we are going to make a space plane that uses, or that collects and returns the anti-hydrogen. So let's go ahead, let's make it a Mark III, just because the Mark III's hangar bays are quite a bit bigger. Cargo, that's right. Oh, okay. Neat. Let's do Mark III. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and throw on a rocket fuel fuselage. We are not going to use liquid fuel and oxidizer, although I suppose we could. We are instead... Let's see. Okay, so let's build the other stuff before I get ahead of myself here. We need a power supply. So we are going to throw in... Let's see. One of these guys. How much power does this produce? Okay, that's not too bad. Muon catalyzed fusion. These things are nice because they can run on just hydrogen, though they're a little less efficient. This one, no. Yeah, we're just gonna go with this one. So this is our plasma jet magneto inertial fusion reactor. This guy I have found is a pretty solid workhorse. So when you combine it with the MHD generator and that guy, it's going to be a big plane here. This will produce a good amount of power. We can see here. At full capacity, this will produce just over 4 gigawatts. We're going to need some radiators to cool this sucker off. Let's see what we can do here. Hey, perfect. It does not produce a crazy amount of heat, so you can cool it off fairly simply. Okay, now let's go ahead and get ourselves a cyclotron. We're going to want the positron, and we are going to make enough. We're going to make just over 4 gigawatts, and each one of these requires 2. Let's see if I can show you that. That doesn't seem right. Maximum power requirements, 40 kilowatts. No way. Huh. Well, something's wrong there, and I'm not exactly sure which one. I suspect it's this bigger one right down there, but I could be totally wrong. It would not be the first time. Okay, so we got those guys. We are going to need a way to collect the antimatter itself. I'm actually going to grab this ISX one here. XS. This one. We're going to slap that on the... Oh. Never mind. A deployable one here. This is really annoying. There we go. Okay, which way does that deploy? Upwards? Nope. There we go. And then we need our diamagnetic antimatter collector, or container rather. We're going to go ahead and crank that up to a 2.5 meter. So that'll bring us plenty of matter home. And this is really only a couple kilograms, or rather, just over 100 kilograms of the stuff. So it's not going to add a whole lot of weight. Okay, let's look at our centers of gravity and such. Let's look at the delta, the big-ass delta wing. I'm going to go ahead and close, nope, let's open that. Close that, close that, close that. Let's scale this up to 200% here. I don't think that these are updating correctly. Maybe they are. Okay. And let's go to aerodynamics here. Perfect. Scale that up to 200%. This will only be roll. And let's put another one right in here. And this one will be pitch and roll. let's go ahead and put an advanced canard up here. Scale that up. Put it there. This one will be pitch. And let's go back to Mark III parts. Let's see. This one? Yeah, we'll do this one. Okay, aerodynamics, big space plane thingy-doodler. This one will just be yaw. Okay, and let's look at what engines we've got here. So, we have a good amount of fuel potential here. Let's see. What is one? Okay, so we could use the aerospike Z-pinch engine here. This guy is pretty neat. It runs on fusion pellets, which we've gone over how to collect. It does not actually have all that, or rather, it does not require, it doesn't go through that many, is what I'm trying to say. You can see here, yeah, just a tiny, tiny amount. It goes through a lot of intake air, but that's not too bad. So we can use that to get mostly into, there we go. We can use that to get mostly into the atmosphere, or into space, and then switch over to, I think I just told this to be hydrogen. No. So then it also has, where's it showing me the thrust here? Thrust. Okay, so teeny tiny little thrust, but crazy high ISP. Or we could do hydrogen, which gives us a much higher thrust, but much lower ISP. Let's see what options we have here. Let's switch window. Okay, so we could do carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, I found, is usually a pretty good option. Does this do carbon dioxide? Yes, it does. Okay, so that gives us 3,000 kilonewtons, and ISP is very low, but I'm not worried about that right now. That looks good to me. Now, this guy, it requires, so it stores energy. Does it require energy? So it generates waste heat. That's good to know. So we might end up needing more reactors, or more radiators, rather. So it says that these are wings. So if I do something like that, maybe more like that. Like so. So we're going to radiate plenty of heat. I guess we'll find out. And then we're going to need to add intakes. Intake. Shock cones. I believe these are the most efficient. Because we're not worried about heat, or not worried about mass. These things, like this engine right here, it's going to put us well into the air. Oh, this one, we can switch over to CO2 as well. CO2. Okay, so our center of lift is way out of whack. When this is carbon dioxide. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so 3,000. Yeah, it's saying that we don't have a terribly good delta V right now. Does need power, but we'll turn off our cyclotrons when we are running this engine, so we'll have plenty of power there. We do need to add one small thing here. This reactor does go through deuterium and tritium, so let's go ahead and add a couple of fuel tanks for that. Those guys need attachment points. Do these guys work with that? Okay, so it doesn't have deuterium or tritium on that one. That's fine. We could put these guys and scale them down, I think. Not far enough. How does that look when this closes? No. Nope, this is gas. Okay. Okay, that can't be switched. I guess we're going to go back to the old standard. Actually, yeah, we'll do this. We'll scale these down real quick. See how that looks when we close. Perfect. Okay, so this one is going to be set up to be deuterium. Deuterium. And this one's going to be tritium. Is that tritium? Yes. So tritium's a little expensive. It's not too crazy. But it is important to realize that you may not want to launch up 100,000 tons of tritium. It's a little more expensive. Helium-3 is more expensive than it, and of course antimatter is way more expensive. Okay, let's see what we've got here. 2 cyclotrons, a collector, the actual thingy-doodler. I don't think we need this radiator. Do we have any crew yet? Yeah, okay. So we're just going to send up the A team there. Okay, we need landing gear and we need more air intakes. So let's go ahead and look at intakes. Nope. Ah. I can never tell, like, is it... Okay, so it's bent there, and now is it straight? I think it is. Maybe it's not. Honestly, this is kind of annoying. Okay. It's gonna have to be straight enough, though. There we go. Nope. Nope. Oh, that was pretty much it. Okay. What do we got? There we go. Let's go ahead and add more shock cones. And then under aerodynamics, we're going to grab this guy. I find that this one looks the best. Scale it down. Take this guy and pop it up ever so slightly. And maybe a smidgen forward. There we go. Okay, so that'll give us plenty of air. Hopefully. I have not actually run this engine before, so we shall see. And gear. We need gear. So let's go ahead and throw down the large landing gear up front. And extra larges on the side. Okay, so we're going to need to rotate this guy. Get him level. Get him twisted around. And then shift him up a little bit. Okay, how does that look? Down a smidgen. And we need to make that mirrored, otherwise this is not going to work well. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and close this guy up. Close this guy up. And let's see if this flies. So this is going to be our antimatter miner. Slash. This is a Z-pinch engine, I believe. Aerospike Z-pinch. Alright. And this has nothing on it. Okay, let's go ahead and save and launch. I was experimenting a little bit with some of the other spaceplane dedicated engines, and some of them are pretty good. Most of them are in the Mark II form factor, so maybe I'll see if I can get a Mark II working here. Okay, let's go ahead and throttle up. Okay. Right. So, right, okay, we need to switch to atmosphere. There we go. Okay. And where do we have liquid fuel at? Liquid CO2. Liquid CO2. I don't know why it's giving me the option to do liquid CO2. Or liquid, the other one. Yeah. Okay. So we're getting a solid above 1 thrust-to-weight ratio, which means that this should be a pretty easy setup here. We're already going supersonic. We haven't even left the runway yet. Well, left the KSC. And this is going to be a pretty normal-looking ascent here. Wow, look at that thrust-to-weight ratio. Huh, okay. So let's go ahead and climb. Ooh. Hello, everybody. Oh, there is one thing I might need to check here. This could be make or break. Maximum G. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and need to revert. What I forgot to do here is this container for the antimatter. It has safeties built in, and if you exceed those safeties, things explode. So if the temperature gets too high, the whole craft explodes, and if the thing accelerates too rapidly, the thing explodes. I assume that that's basically the antimatter colliding with its container and annihilating, which is a bad idea. So we're going to go ahead and do a 10G one there. Let's go ahead and close that. Save it, and try this again. Oh, I should have switched it off the CO2. Oh well, we'll do that right before we start. Okay. Switching to atmospheric fusion. Throttle up. Yeah, so you can see this thing, as it goes faster and faster, the thrust increases. There we go. So this is a pretty heavy little bird here, but we're managing. So we want to climb to higher altitudes so that this sort of thrust doesn't rip our thing to pieces. And then in sort of normal spaceplane fashion, we're going to get about to our ceiling, gain as much horizontal velocity as we can, and then right at the last minute we will switch to carbon dioxide and kick ourselves into orbit, and then we'll circularize, and we're good past there. Oh! Okay. Maybe went a little fast there. I'm going to go ahead and just pause the recording here until I actually get this into orbit, because I'm sure it's amusing to watch, but you guys don't want to watch every time I fail here. Okay. See you in a second. Alrighty, so I managed to get out of the atmosphere just barely. Turns out this engine doesn't throttle, at least not when it's in the atmospheric mode, which was a bit of a surprise. So I had to turn it off for a couple kilometers to not burn up, but we managed to get out. Used about 1,000 delta V of our CO2 in order to get kick ourselves up to our apoapsis. We're going to go ahead and circularize from here, which will not take a whole lot. Oh, I didn't put any reaction control systems on this. This is going to be painful. Still, though, physical time warp. Yeah, it would have been smart to put a couple here, maybe a couple in the cargo bay, one at the end here. Right now, all we've got is the one in the crew, or in the cockpit. So, live and learn. Okay, and you can see the ascent used hardly any fusion pellets. Less than a half of one, less than a quarter of a fusion pellet. Okay, so since we are now in orbit, I'm going to go ahead and open these guys up. We've overshot our apoapsis ever so slightly. It means we'll be slightly less efficient when we do this, but it will not matter in the end here. Okay, so I am going to deploy this guy here. It takes a second. And then we are going to go ahead and produce positrons. And things are a little clipped in here, so pardon that. Alrighty, so our reactor is now running. Yep, so it's idling about 88% here, or 81, sorry. It's going up a little bit as our waste heat increases. Waste heat just reduces the overall efficiency of reactors, engines, all that stuff. There's no way to get it all the way down, but it's not going to be that big a deal, I don't think. Let's see. Let's go ahead and accelerate here. We might have to kick all the way up to 100%. Yeah. Okay, so we're struggling a little bit for power. Let's go ahead and just turn one of these cyclotrons off. There we go. Okay, so now we're idling at just under 50% power. That'll cause our waste heat to go down. In a version 2, I'd probably only stick one cyclotron in there. I was being a bit optimistic. Alrighty, so it is very slow producing... antimatter is reasonably fast, but positrons I find take the longest. Yeah, they're going up very, very slowly. So if we were to time accelerate like for a couple of years here, it would probably not even be enough. So this is the kind of thing that you would want to send up maybe as a drone. Basically you're going to want to send this up when you have plenty of time to wait. Either you're sending a mission out to like an outer planet, because we've got the outer planet mod. So a traditional transfer to something like Nidon or Erlum, Uranus or Neptune, is going to take many years. So instead of just time accelerating while those things are floating through space, you launch something like this, set it up to produce, and like hit start antimatter or antihydrogen production. We got some these micrograms. Let's see, what is UG? Let's look this up real quick. So yeah, that's micrograms. So we've got a couple micrograms of antihydrogen, which is good. That's important stuff to have. So we are collecting plenty of antimatter. Yeah, it's the positrons we're short on, which is why I brought 2 of these cyclotrons up here. So yeah, that's going to burn through pretty much all of our power. And we do produce it a little bit quicker, but I'm going to go ahead and just turn that one off. So the goal here is just time accelerate and let this thing do its thing. You can go faster by having more cyclotrons and more deployable antimatter collectors. If you have a ground station, you could do something similar where you're producing your antihydrogen by just relying on cyclotrons and reactors in atmosphere. That's not a terrible idea. It'd be real easy to bring it back, obviously. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to simulate many years, possibly a decade or two, by just going into the cheats menu here and just activating infinite propellant for a little bit. That allows this guy to produce a lot quicker, I think. Yeah, it's producing faster because now we're up to grams. It'll still take a couple of days for this to work. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, there we go. Flew past it a bit. So a little over a year. But that's with, all of the resources enabled. So let's go ahead and disable that. And let's land back at the Kerbal Space Center. This is important. You do not get all of your money back if you don't land it back at least near the KSC. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this guy back up. Close that. There we go. Close this one as well. Let's go ahead and point retrograde, do some physical speedy up. Okay, and that should bring us roughly back. I should point out, this is a prototype craft. I have never re-entered this. You've obviously seen me build it just now. I can't think of any reason why this thing's going to go. The only problem I can foresee is that I perform too hard of a maneuver. So I'm actually going to crank these authority limiters down to 7% roughly. This one, we'll keep it about, 8. We'll keep that one at 10 because that is supposed to be a little bit heavier of a control surface. And let's go ahead and burn retrograde. Bring ourselves back into the atmosphere. Don't want to come in too steeply. Don't want to burn up. But I think that something like... 45. Now let's go a little further down. 35. That'll work. Kitten. Get down. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and point prograde again. Speedy up. Okay. And we'll do some on-rails time acceleration. Boy. Oh, I changed this, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Pardon that. My wife set up a reminder on our... starts with an A. It's a particular Amazon voice-activated virtual assistant. So it helps me keep track of time here. One of the more annoying parts of ADHD is your time blindness. I will sit here and it's been about 10 minutes for me, but boy, it's been 4 hours for everyone else. Alrighty, so now we're coming down. I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to atmospheric. And let's give a little bit of a time acceleration. Okay, let's go ahead and turn a bit. Oh boy. Let's keep an eye on our G meter here. Okay, we're slowing down a bit. Oh, yeah. Well, since we're here... No, okay. Switch it back to CO2. Let's see if we can get retrograde again. What do you mean we're not stable at these sort of speeds? I'll have you know I've designed at least 4 space planes in my life. Okay, now let's try and get retrograde. Or prograde. I don't even know what kind of spin this is. This can't be a flat spin. Because it's not flat. Okay. Let's hope we pull out here. Dare I speed things up? I dare. I dare, I say. Oh boy. Okay, well now we're no longer heating. Adding parachutes might not have been a bad idea. That was kind of optimistic to not add them, really. Well, I suppose at worst, let's see if we can tell it to point retrograde. Probably that won't work either. Actually, let's go ahead. Now that we're no longer so fast, let's go ahead and reactivate these guys. See if we can crank our control back up. Prograde. Ooh. Hey, they were pointed roughly in the right direction. Okay, so I think now we can actually... So we're just in a flat spin, which means now if we just apply thrust, I believe that's what gets us out of a flat spin. could be totally wrong here, obviously. It's been known to happen. Okay, in thrust we trust. Oh boy. Ah. Let's make sure we're pointing the right direction. Oh hey, there we go, there we go. Ooh, oh boy. Okay, so it right there, it said G alert, or G's are critical. Okay. So we have to be very careful pulling out here. Oh dear! Oh boy. Yeah. Okay, so if you're copying me, go ahead and revert back to the hangar and add some parachutes. Don't be like me. Ooh. Oh boy. Hey, there we go. Flawless. Are we time accelerated at all? No, we are not. Okay. That can cause big problems with acceleration, or with steering, specifically. Does thrust limiting work? Looks like it does. Okay. So, we are just going to cruise along here. Where are we? We are here. Let's go ahead and get to the KSC. Dare I trust the auto approach? I think I daren't. Yeah, parachutes. Well, I don't want to go through that whole process again, but if you're following along at home, throw some parachutes on here, because we could cut engines, we could throw on a bunch of parachutes, pop our gear, and we would land with a nice bounty of about 10 billion spaceos. Kerbucks, however you want to call them. I'm personally partial to spaceos. Just tapping. Just tippy-tappy, tippy-tapping. Ooh. Yeah, if I tippy-tap too hard, we pull about 10 Gs. I want to see what a thrust limiter of, like, 10% looks like. What sort of speeds are typical at about 10%? Still gonna go supersonic, which is fine. Boy, I don't know if I can recommend this thing because of the lack of thrust limiting here. Let's try again. I guess you could make something work if you did, you could make something work if, oh, jeez. I'm so sorry. Words. If you set up, like, control groups and stuff, things that would change the thrust limitation, that could work, maybe. Yeah, there's some options. So, let's go ahead and time accelerate. Oh, boy. Oh, okay, maybe this doesn't work. I guess we could just sort of bunny hop by turning on the engine for a little bit and then turning it off and then turning it back on and turning it back off. And oh, and there we go. Well, yeah, that's what I figured was gonna happen. Jeez. Yep. Antimatter container exploded. Critical Gs. So, that's what happens. I'm going to go ahead and try that again, and we're going to see what we can do. I'm going to revert to the hangar, and I'm going to install some parachutes, and I'll be back when I'm ready to collect. Alrighty, so we did manage to get back here. That was a very harrowing return, but did manage to get back without blowing ourselves up. So we are just about in the KSC, just a few meters out. Let's go ahead and recover our vessel here. Of course, full of antihydrogen. Alrighty, got some science. Okay, there we go. So about 10 billion funds recovered. So the closer you land to the KSC, the better, with these recovering valuable resource bits. Okay, and then, yep, got these guys advanced. So I'm going to go ahead and call it there. We had a good bit of information about the aerospike engine. I did notice this. It does throttle when you are putting like carbon dioxide through it, so I assume it's just atmospheric that it has problems with. Kind of interesting, not a huge deal. Anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.